Hello everyone, welcome to Data Engineer YouTube channel. In this video, we will create an end-to-end project in Microsoft Fabric. So if you have not watched my previous videos, definitely you can watch them. Don't worry if you haven't watched those even. So I will be creating everything from scratch in this particular project. So let me give you a walkthrough of this project and then we will start creating it. So let's start on the architecture side of this particular project. So what we will do is we will start with creation of lakehouse. In the lakehouse, we will add some data, and then using SQL endpoints, we will do some transformation on top of that particular data. Once those transformations are done, we will create a semantic model, and then once the model is created, we will create a Power BI dashboard on top of that particular model. I will keep this project very light so that we can focus more on understanding different concepts. All right, and then slowly you can make this project larger as required. Right now, talking about the data which we will be using, so what I have done is I have created a sample data set which contains FD records. So generally whenever we want to do saving, so one of the very good mode of saving is the fixed deposit, wherein in a bank you get a fixed interest rate, right? And this is that. So we are assuming that we have three people, Sai, Ritika, and Jeet, and these are the different FDs booked by these three particular people, right? We have the account IDs, the type. We are keeping the type to be FD, so these are all FDs. In the future, if they want to book a RD or something, so we can expand. And then we have the principal amount, the maturity amount, the maturity date, right? Now there are a lot of things which are missing, like interest rate, which can be derived from this particular data set. Then we can have the tenure, how many number of years a particular FD will exist, so that can be also derived, and so on. So that thing we can do using SQL endpoints. So let's start creating the project, because now we know the architecture and also the data point which we will be using. So let's get started creating a lakehouse. Okay, I'm going to my workspace, app.fabric.microsoft.com. So this is my dev workspace. Now if you don't have an account, definitely you can see my first video on how to create a free account in Fabric. Okay, that is a trial package for 30 days, so you can definitely take that. Now once you are here, what you need to do is you need to click on new button and go to more options. Once you are in more options, you need to click on lakehouse. I will write down my dev lakehouse as the lakehouse name, and I will click on create. Once I click on create, my lakehouse will be created. Now in lakehouse, what you can do is you can store the data in the form of files as well as tables, right? Now this is one of my Excel file. What I will do is I will download it in the form of CSV. All right, my CSV file is downloaded. Now what I can do is simply I can go to files folder, and in the files folder I can simply click on get data, and I will upload this static data. Right, definitely there are a lot of methods from you can take the data, bring the data from the SQL source, multiple sources, so which we will see in the later point of videos. But in this project I am uploading this static file. Now this file you can see it in the description. Okay, I'll put the URL, and definitely you can also download this file from the description as well, right, for practice purposes. Now this file is available here. What I will do is, now in files you can store any type of file, be it CSV, PARC, any type of. But if you want to convert it into a table, definitely it should be a CSV file. Even if it is a PARC or different version, definitely we can use the notebooks to transform it, which we will see again in later part of videos. But now we have a CSV file, so what I can do is I can simply click on three dots, load to table, and I can create a new table. So name of that new table I will keep is FT record, and because it is a CSV, so it is separated by what, comma. I will click on load button, And now it started loading my CSV file into the table. So once it is done, in the table folder you will see a table named FD record. So let's wait for it. It may take some time to load. Alright, so as you can see, it's we can get a notification successfully created FD record table. So now you can see a table is created with the different schema. And now because it is a CSV file, so we have the date, ideally creation date, and the you can see the maturity date is also a text. It's not date data type, right? So now what we will do is, this is what we have as the data. Now our step 1 is done. So if I go to the diagram, so lakehouse is created and you have your data in the form of table in lakehouse. Now using SQL endpoint, what we will do is we will transform this data. Alright, so let's do that. There are two issues there. One is the data type is not correct, right? You can see maturity date should be of date data type, it should not be a string. Creation date should be of date data type, it should not be a string. That is number 1 issue. Number 2 issue is I also want some derived columns like tenure, and then I also want the interest rate. Interest rate is not provided here, I want that. So those kind of things we will derive. Okay, for that what we can do is from lakehouse I will go to SQL Analytics endpoint. So I need to click on this button, SQL Analytics endpoint. Now once I click on this button, you will see whatever in your like data lake, whatever in your basically lakehouse, whatever tables are available, so all will be loaded in the tables folder. You can create views using SQL endpoints. Stored procedures also can be created using SQL endpoints. And then security part, right, role assignments and everything can be provided from here itself. It's just like Azure SQL. If you have worked with Azure SQL, it's the same version here, right? Now what I will do is I will click on new SQL query and I can query the data. So for example, let's say I want to query this FD record table. So I can simply write select star from the FD record, right? Same way, just like we can just select it using SSMS, we can query the data. Same way we can do it here as well, right? I can just click on run button and my data will be appearing here, right? I have total of 14 rows, 8 columns, everything is here. Even we can just open the same thing in Excel and we can explore this data as well, right? So there are different things which we can do on top of it. Now what I will do is I will create a view. Okay, I will create a view, and that view, it will contain all this column, also the derived columns. So to save time, I have already written the query. I'm just copying and pasting it, and then I'll explain the query. Okay, so what I'm doing is we can just this is the select query, so I can simply write create view and the view name, right? Let's say we will name it as v_fd record. Okay, as now we have the select statement, and that's it. So now you can see commands completed successfully, and in the view folder I have view v_record, right? So a view is created. So now this is my select statement and I have created a view of this particular statement. Let me make you go through this particular select statement. So it is selecting all the columns. Remember our data type was in the string format. So I'm using try cast to convert this maturity date into date data type, because it's a date data type and not a string. Same thing I am doing for the creation date, and these are the derived columns which are created. So if you can see number of years. So what we are doing is we are taking the date difference between creation date and the maturity date, and we are picking up the year. So it will be the number of years between those two dates, right? So now next thing which we are doing is we are deriving out the interest rate. So the formula, you know the formula, right? P into R into T upon 100 is the amount, and then if I want to derive the interest, that is amount minus the principal divided by principal into the number of years into 100. So this is what the interest rate is. So same thing is done here, right? And then what we are doing is we are creating a new column named as the current value. Now what is current value? So obviously, let's say I have a FD. Now the FD maturity is of 2 years, right? But now, the bank give the interest annually. So what will, let's say today, at this particular date, the FD, which was booked in, like, say, previous year. So 1 year is gone, 1 year is left. Now the current value of the FD will be the amount, the principal, which I have invested plus 1 year interest. So to calculate that, so we have created a derived column called current value, and that's it. So we have just created it and tested the same. Once it is done, we created a view called v_fd record and we ran the query. Even we can say once you have done this, your query will be saved under my queries. Alright, you can even shift it to shared queries as well. Now what's the difference between my queries and shared queries? My queries are the queries which are owned by you, right? And once you put this query into shared query folder, so whoever have the access to this particular lake house, the SQL endpoint, they will also be able to see this script, right? Now the thing is done. Now what we will do is we need to create visuals on top of this particular table. So how we can do that? So with this, our second part is completed, which is SQL endpoint. We transform the data using the SQL endpoints. Now comes the semantic model. In semantic model, we can add as many as tables as we want. In SQL, there can be multiple tables, but in semantic model, it's up to us. Whatever tables we want to add, we can add, and top of it, we can create Power BI dashboards. Now, we have just one view created. So what we will do is, already we have one table as well, which is FD record. We will add both the table and view in our semantic model. So let's see how we can do that. Alright, so for that, what we need to do is we need to click on the table, we need to click on 3 dots, and we need to click on add to default semantic model. Once we do that, it will be automatically added to the default semantic model attached to our data lakehouse. Now, what we want to do is we want also this particular view in our semantic model because it contains some derived columns. So I'll click on this 3 dot, we'll click on add to default semantic model, and that too will be added. Right, now what we can do is if you go to workspace, you can see the default semantic model here. So you can see in bracket it's written default. Now what we need to do is we need to create a report on top of the semantic model. Now there are two ways of doing this. We need to create a Power BI dashboard or a report. So what we can do is we can generate a report using AI, using Copilot, or we can create it ourselves. So for both the option, you need to click on new, you need to click on report. Now you need to pick up the data set. Our data set is a semantic model. I'm clicking on this semantic model, will select my resource, which is my dev lakehouse. And then I have two options here, which is auto create report and create a blank report. So maybe it may be hidden behind my face, but there are two options, auto create report and create a blank report. Now I'm going with create a blank report. If you want it to be made using AI, you can click on auto create report, but make sure these reports are not like you can say you will see the matrices, but all matrices are not valid. For example, we do have account number, which is an integer, so it may show a visual which will do some summation of will show a KPI like sum of accounts, which is not required. So some unnecessary visuals are also created. So what you can do is just to save time, you can create you can auto create a report, and then you can just modify it, enhance it as per your needs. So what I will do is I am just going for create a blank report. So I'll click on create a blank report because I want to create a report from scratch. Now my both views and tables are available here. I will be just using my view. And now let's start creating the dashboard. Okay, one of the very common aspect of creating a dashboard is we should have some KPIs, slicers, and visuals so that the dashboard looks nice. So what we will do is we will create some few KPIs. KPIs stand for knowledge point indices. So let's see how we can create that. So I will add a card visual. In this particular card visual, I will add the principal. Okay, so I will say sum of principal. So this is my principal. I am doing sum of principal and I will name it as total principal. Okay, so we have total principal of 3 million. Okay, approximately. Now what we can do is I will just copy this. I will just resize this to this much. Copy it, and now I will make a second KPI which is total amount. Alright. Okay, obviously my amount will be greater than the principal because some interest is added. And you need, like we have different banks, right? Where our FD records are available. If I show you the data set, you have different banks, Axis Bank, IDFC, and so on. And the interest rates varies from time to time. So what I want is I want a KPI which tell me about my average interest rate on all my FDs, whatever these three people owns, right? So what I will do is I will drag and drop the rate. Alright. And I will do the average of rate, right? So it's 6.33. Okay. So I will rename it to average rate of interest. Alright. Now this is created. Now what I want is I want how the wealth is distributed between these three banks. So what I can do is I can take a this pie visual, and what I can do is I will say the legend should be the banks, and then it should be the principal. Okay, so value should be the principal. So you can see the wealth is distributed, so the majority of the wealth is with the IDFC bank. So let me just rename the title. Okay, so the title should be principal by bank. So I can rename it here itself. Okay, so let me just turn off the headers. All right. So let me just write principal by bank. Okay. So now you can see we have principal by bank, right? And now you can see these are the three different banks. And if I click on IDFC bank, so majority of the amount is with IDFC, and then it is with Axis, and lastly we have it with HDFC. It looks nice. Now what I want is I want a table view as well, which should show me the details. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a table view, and inside the table view what I will do is I will add the account number, and it should be don't summarize, and then what we can do is we can add the amount, again don't summarize, and then the principal don't summarize, we will add the rate. We will do it to don't summarize again, and then we will add the bank as well, and then finally we will add the effective and the expiration date, or we can say the maturity date and the creation date. So the creation date when the FD is created, and then we want the maturity date, right? So this is what we have created. Alright, and now what I will do is I will just give some gaps here like this. Alright, okay, now comes the slicer. So we will be adding some slicers. So what we can do is we can add few slicers. So one of the very good slicers should be the name. Okay, so we remember we have three different people, Jeet, Ritika and Sai, and this wealth is distributed between these three people. So I will create a slicer and I will select a drop down, and that's it. So now what we can do is based on the slicer, okay, so we can select Ritika's ones. So Ritika have this many FDs 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and majority are in Axis Bank and IDFC Bank, and this is the average rate of interest. We can see it for Sai and so on, right? So this is a name slicer. Remember we also created a derived column called is expired. So second slicer I will be creating is the is expired, okay, and my is expired have two columns, two values, yes and no. If it is yes, that means the FDs are expired. So these are the ones which have been matured. So you can see the dates 2018, 2023, 19, 2024, March and so on. So these are the expired ones and so on, right? And that's it. So this is how you can create a dashboard. So this is a sample dashboard which we have created. Just to save time, I'm just creating few visuals. If you want more, definitely you can create more visuals. You can do more formatting and all by using Power BI dashboard. So definitely you can even use Power BI software, and once you have created a report in Power BI software, you can publish it. Okay, so that way also you can do it. Now what I'm doing is I'm saving this report and I will name it as FinBI. So Financial BI, and I will save it. And this is how my final report is created. So now we are done with the step 4 as well. So this is how we created an end-to-end analytics project. So let me recall what we did. Firstly, we started with lake house. We created a lake house. We uploaded some sample data. We did some transformations using SQL endpoint. We created a semantic model on top of it, and then we created a Power BI dashboard. Now the question is, we can do this thing even without creating a semantic model. We can just upload the data manually and create a Power BI dashboard. But the reason why I told you these steps is because in real-time projects, definitely you need semantic models wherein you have multiple tables, their relationship and so on. So we will see those big projects in the upcoming videos. So stay tuned. I hope you like the project. Thank you.